Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about immigration in the 1920s and something called the Red Scare. So if we remember, during World War I, which was right before the Roaring Twenties, right before the 1920s, Russia, one of the Allied powers, is going to withdraw from the war and is going to have a communist revolution. That means the country is now communist. Well, the US doesn't really believe in communism. The capitalist system that the US has, which is based on free enterprise, individual initiative, working hard to make money and have prosperity and success, doesn't really exist in communism, where the government is going to try to distribute everything pretty much as equally as possible, where the government is 100% involved in daily decisions in life. It's very different. So the United States and people within it is going to start to fear that throughout Europe and maybe even the US, communism might start to spread and might start to spread in the US and might gain popularity, and what happened in Russia might happen in the US. So a lot of people are afraid of this. So this event is called the Red Scare. The color of communism typically is signified by the color red, hence the Red Scare. So this means there's going to be a rise in what we call nativist attitudes. And if you remember what nativist means, it just means you're afraid of foreigners, you distrust foreigners, and specifically the nativist attitudes are going to be a distrust of communists, of Russians, of people from Eastern Europe, of Southern Europe, those new immigrants. And this is first going to be really shown by these two immigrants, these fears that we're talking about. So right here we have two guys. We got Sacco and we got Vanzetti right here. And as you see, they're behind bars here. So let's figure out what happened to them. So these are Italian immigrants, some of the new immigrants. And they are actually going to be what we call anarchists. And anarchists really don't believe that there should be a big, strong government. The government should be very minimal or not even exist at all, which is a very radical belief. A lot of people were afraid of people like this coming to America and even suspected that these two immigrants, Sacco and Vanzetti, might actually even be communists. So Sacco and Vanzetti were seen around a shoe factory in Massachusetts, and there was a shooting there, a robbery, where two men were killed. And witnesses said that they thought they saw, they thought the people that did it were Italian. So everyone thought that they did it, that Sacco and Vanzetti did it, because they matched the description, and they were afraid of these types of immigrants. It must have been those Italians, those anarchists, those maybe communist people thought. So they were arrested, and they were found with these 32 caliber pistols with bullets that pretty much match the ones at the scene. But the ballistic technology, where you figure out if the bullets match the gun, if they actually came from the gun that was fired, the technology that we have today wasn't like that back then, so they couldn't be 100% sure. It was pretty much, these guys have guns, the guns are like the ones that shot these bullets, they must have did it, right? So what ends up happening to Sacco and Vanzetti? Well, they get executed. So the evidence is kind of circumstantial, it's a little flimsy, it's a little weak. There was nothing to say 100% they were here, and the United States justice system killed them anyway. So a lot of people were up in arms about this decision to kill these guys, even though there wasn't a lack of evidence. But why did they do it? Why did the United States kill these two guys? Well, we're afraid. We're afraid of immigrants. We're afraid of communists. We're afraid of anarchists. We're afraid of people that are different. The U.S. was very nativist at this time, enough to kill two people that might be innocent. Well, today, we could pretty much confirm with our new ballistics technology, looking back at this old case, that they actually did do it. But back during that time, it was very suspect for the government to go out and kill people without uh, evidence that was for sure placed them at the scene, for sure made it possible that they did it. Another event that is going to really show what's happening during the Red Scare of the 1920s is something called the Palmer Raids. So anarchists and communists were thought to have sent these explosives, these bombs in the mail to different prominent people, and probably the most prominent person in the 1920s that was sent one of these bombs was the Attorney General of the United States, someone who was the head of law enforcement, and his name was A. Mitchell Palmer. And as you see right here, they bombed his home, and here's the destruction of what was left. He survived, he did not die, and he is going to put in charge the FBI, which was new at the time, to investigate the bombing and find out who did it. The FBI thinks that it was definitely anarchists, it was definitely communists, can't pin down which ones really did it, but they decide, A. Mitchell Palmer decides, we need to get rid of these people. We need to arrest these people, and we need to deport these people, these radicals, these communists, these anarchists. Get them out of our country. So a lot of people are rounded up that are thought to be communists, thought to be radicals, thought to be anarchists, and are detained, are arrested without any charge. A lot of them didn't have charges against them and were held anyway, and some of them were even deported. 2,000 people are going to be deported and sent out of the country, even if there weren't a lot of charges against them or any charges against them. Just the fact that they were thought to be an anarchist or a communist or some other type of radical. And this all happened because these people were different. They were from other places, from Eastern and Southern Europe. They were from Russia. They were thought to be communists. They were immigrants. And America was very nativist at this time. We were afraid of these Reds coming into the country, that we were willing to do things unconstitutionally, like arrest and deport people without even charging them with a crime. And finally, the U.S. is going to have enough and decide we need to lessen the amount of immigrants that are coming from these places that might be communists, might be communist countries. So after World War I, Europe was pretty much destroyed in a lot of places, and a lot of people thought, let's leave these countries that are war-torn and let's go to America and have a better life. So as you see in this picture right here, lots of people from Europe are trying to go into, as we see, the U.S. here, and America decides, let's create a new law called the Emergency Quota Act. Remember, act means it's just a law in 1921. And what a quota is just a limit. So what the U.S. is going to do is put a limit on the amount of immigrants that can come into the United States. So looking at this picture, we have a funnel, and what a funnel does, obviously, is let less and less stuff through. And you see Uncle Sam right here that represents the United States is even lowering the amount of people, making the funnel even smaller, letting barely anyone from Europe coming in. This represents that he's putting the quota in place, and he's limiting the immigration with this funnel and with this gate that we see right here. So that's a real fast, brief explanation of what the Red Scare is and what the U.S. is going to do about immigration from places like Europe during the Red Scare. Thanks, guys.